Hello and welcome to another episode of the Investing RN. Today we have Ayush Gupta. I know him from GoBundance. You've heard me reference that many times on here. But what you don't know is that he's an avid broomball player. No, we had a team up in when we went to Lake Tahoe for a conference, and he was our goalie. Nobody scored on him. So I just wanted everybody to know that before we got started.
That's a big achievement.
Yeah. So welcome, Ayush. Thanks for spending some time with us. And yeah, I think let's get started by just kind of talking your journey through. So you're an ER physician now, right?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Josh and Cole. ER physician in New Orleans right now.
Yeah. So let's talk about your journey. We can go through like your backstory kind of quickly, and then get into real estate. You're known as the MD house hacker, and yeah, we'll get all into it. But kind of give us a little quick story on how you made it to where you are now in the hospital and your healthcare background.
Sure, I'll keep it short. So I was born, raised in India. I did my med school over there. My dad was a doctor, mom's homemaker. At 16, at like 10, I was decided when I was 10 years old that I'm going to be a physician, because if you're Indian, you're either an engineer or a doctor. My brother did not take physician, so I had to become a doctor. So I knew that and so you go to medicine, like you go to med school in India from high school. So like at 18, you're in med school, which is pretty young. In the US, you go to college and then you decide if you want to go to med school or not, So finish my training over there. It's like it's 5.5-year training. Then I moved to New York, where I did my residency in pediatrics and then my fellowship in Michigan in pediatric emergency medicine for 3 years. So those 3 years of training, moved to New Orleans in 2019, which where I still am. I work at the pediatric emergency medicine room physician full time.
Okay, so you do pediatrics first and then ER pediatrics, or does it have can you like interchange them? Or
okay. You can flip it. A bunch of guys do EM and then do PEDS-EM. You just have to be very passionate to do PEDS-EM as a specialty, because just a very small niche. So not a lot of physicians like us in the country.
Yeah. What drew you to that specifically?
So when I was in India, pediatrics was very, very interesting for me. Just the kind of patient population you can make an impact to. Kids, when they tell you in the ER or later on in life that, hey, I want to be like that doctor, that's like very impactful thing. You can make a massive impact for a long period of time. And then just I think my entrepreneur spirit, I just like the fast paced, making a change faster, saving somebody's life is like something you can do fast. We call it like the golden hour. When a kid is coding, the first hour, when somebody's really sick, the first hour is when you can make the massive impact. So that what drew me to the ER. The schedule of the ER is pretty fun. You don't have to worry about taking calls or pages once you go home. You can travel a lot in the ER schedule. You swing a shift together, like 5-10 shifts in a row, like maybe a couple of days gap in between, and then travel. Travel was a big passion for me. It still is. We just got back yesterday from Colorado, so we love traveling. And ER, multiple stuff, PEDS, fast impact, allow you to make your own schedule and travel. I would say those.
So maybe this is me just not understanding like how you got to where you are. So could you have stopped and been like a pediatrician, or it's very specific for emergency only?
Yeah, you can work in the emergency department as a pediatrician, but the training that we get during PEDS residency, I don't think would get you 100% prepared to be a good pediatric emergency medicine physician, because I see, because I work next to pediatricians a lot of times, the confidence that you get when you do a couple of years or even 3 years of training to code patients or to do a lot of procedures, do traumas, those are things that general pediatric training kind of lacks a lot. So you can do it, but one, you won't get the pay of being a PEDS physician, and second, your training will be not that great.
Okay, that makes sense. And you work in a children's hospital down in LA, or not LA?
LA, Louisiana.
LA. Okay, I was like, where am I getting this? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I did ER nursing for about 10 or 11 years, and I did a bunch of different hospitals. Most of them were mixed hospitals. A couple of them had, PEDS departments or whatever. But it was always like, everybody was very comfortable with their skill set, like, adults coming in, geriatrics, whatever. But when a PED patient came in, especially like a coding PEDS patient, it was just like, that was like where, like, I guess like the best of the best would come out. So like, yeah, that specialty it's just a different thing, like a kid coding versus like an adult for, I don't know, maybe it's just because of how young they are and how vulnerable.
No, I agree. And I think the same thing about the nurses. we have a
Mhm.
specific population of pediatric nurses who work in the PCR. Not a lot. And I've seen adult nurses coming to the PCR and trying to do the same things as ped nurses, and it's a whole different ballgame. So
Yeah.
I think the same thing happens with nurses as well.
Yeah. One of the things I remember was like starting IVs on Pete's patients.
Yeah.
And the parents are just like standing over your shoulder and they're looking at you, and it's like, especially if it's a tough one, because they usually are, like on kids,
Yeah.
especially like these sick kids, and like they're standing over, did you get it, did you get it? I'm like, give me a second. And I'm like sweating and they're just like standing over me. I'm like, dude, you're not helping. But like, now I have a kid, so I totally get it. But yeah, it's a whole different ball game with the kids. But
Yeah.
so how long have you been doing that now?
So I finished my training, my fellowship in 2019. So it's coming up 5 years in this job. I've been here for 4.5 years, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. And the bouncing around that you've done to different areas,
Mhm.
New York, and now you're in Louisiana. I had to think for a second there, back to the LA thing. I was like, wait, yeah, Louisiana. But that's just because you were doing your residency and fellowship. Are those? But since you've been like a what's the word I'm looking for?
Attending.
Attending. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's all been in Louisiana.
Yeah, attending has all been in Louisiana. This is my first full-time job I took as an attending. I'm not sure how long. I mean, we love the city. New Orleans is a fun city to live in. It's like a small, big city. You get all the cool things about the big city. Also there's crime and bad things about like any other city in the country. Um, and then I met my girlfriend, my fiance over here as well. And you can't you can't get a southern girl out of the south. I don't know if you guys heard this quote, but in here, and you cannot take them out of the south. So we live here right now, and I'll probably start doing travel. Like I think, Colin, you've done some travel assignments, right? So
Yeah.
I'll probably
Yeah.
start doing some of the travel assignments starting later this year. That's the goal of exploring other hospital settings as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just gonna say that was one of the things that like I always saw with working with ER physicians is like they had the closest schedule to nurses, which like you were mentioning, it's like you don't have to do call, you can like block a bunch of shifts and take time off. So I was always like, man, if I did medicine, I would definitely go into ER.
Yeah, I mean that's the good and the bad. We are like
Yeah.
we can get that flexibility, but we also have that thing in which anybody with anything can walk into the ER. Like you have a runny nose, you do not need to be in the ER for that, but people do come to the ER because it's either the pediatrician's not available or urgent care is closed or something like that. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, but you're right about the scheduling part. It's a lot
Yeah.
of flexibility that you get.
So
Yeah.
you said sometimes you'll like group 5 days in a row. Are those 24-hour shifts where you're in the hospital, or what does your schedule look like typically?
Yeah, my schedule is more like 8 or 9 hour shifts. I would
Okay.
it can be morning, afternoon, nights. We still like switch from days and nights. But yeah, maximum I would do would be 5 days a row, and generally they keep us to 3 to 4 days because by like fourth or fifth night, your body's getting straight, kind of strained a little bit, and you want your
Yeah.
mind to be very very sharp when you're working in the ER.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. So I've never worked in the ER. I don't plan on it. I mean, I work in the OR, so there's similar like
Yeah,
times where you have to be on the top of your game. I mean, all the time, of course, but but
yeah. You play with airway all the time, so you got to be on top of
yeah,
the game. So
that's
same,
right.
same for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
But it sounds like because, and again, like we're talking to nurses, so it's like we're talking to people that work 3 days a week. I mean, nowadays I feel like nobody's actually working only 3 days a week, but that is the potential for the schedule, so it lends itself well to exploring other business opportunities. And so
Yeah.
do you think
Yeah.
that kind of had an impact on why you started pursuing stuff outside of medicine, just because you had the time for it, or is it something you are like always interested in?
When I was in residency, med school, fellowship, I did not know anything outside medicine. I've seen people in my family doing other things apart from being a doctor, but when you're around a group of nurses or a group of residents or a fellow, all you do is talk about the same thing. You finish your shift, you go hang out, you have a drink, you talk about all the bad things in the hospital setting or the patients or the other nurses or the other doctors, and you go home. You do the same thing. It's the same cycle. The schedule flexibility definitely allowed me to invest and pursue other things that I wanted to do. For me, the biggest change was COVID. When 2020 happened, I was maybe 9 months out of training at that point in March of 2020 when COVID hit, and I saw my mentors losing jobs and being furloughed as physicians. Definitely a lot of nurses getting furloughed as well from the pediatric ER settings as well, which kind of made me think that our profession, medical profession, isn't the safest thing that we all think. We, like, as nurses, you train a lot of years to get into nursing, especially if you're CRNA as well. Same for physicians. We train for like 12, 15 years to get into that, and then all of a sudden something happens, your wing gets cut, and it's not the safest thing. So that's probably one of the big things that pushed me into getting into other things. I probably would have done it, but I don't know when. But COVID was very fast tracked me into doing other things in life apart from just medicine.
Yeah. I think 2020 was very eye opening for everyone. And that was a very eye opening year for me also. And for a little bit different reason, I was actually doing locums at the time. And then like the entire month of April, they're like, never mind, we don't need you. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what am I going to do now? Like, it's an entire month where I'm just not doing anything. And that, among other things, and I don't want to get into like too specifics, but just the amount of options that I thought I always had went away, and that was kind of terrifying. So that's when I started kind of ramping up what I wanted to do outside of the hospital also.
Yeah, and we always think we're safe, nobody can touch us. There's always, you look at any data out there, there's like so many healthcare professionals that's needed. As more and more baby boomers are going into retirement and going into older population, but still this can happen, so it happened to you, happened to a lot of people that I know, and kind of like affected me a lot to go into other things.
Yeah. And before we kind of start to get into the real estate that you're doing now, I do want to, because I've seen, we're on some of the same like text threads and stuff through GoBundance, and I've seen you talk about some of the things that you're going through in the hospital. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but where do you see, if you're okay going through specifics, then we can. Otherwise, like, where do you see the trajectory of healthcare? Because it's a business, and they're going to do what makes sense for the business. And I say they, I don't know who they is, but they are going to do what makes sense for the business. And where do you see that going in the next like 10 years or so?
Yeah, I'd love to get into it.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. So I think, when I was starting out, so 2012 is when I first started to experience US healthcare. And it was already changing that time. From what I saw was a lot of medical professionals like nurses and CRNAs and doctors used to be in the admin position for the hospital, making big decisions. That has changed drastically now that we're in 2023, 2024. There's more like MBAs, people who have never or healthcare executives who have not actually worked in the settings of OR, ER, who are making decisions. So their decision is basically paper. They're looking at paper. They're looking at what numbers make sense. Let's do that. So I think our healthcare system is not, the doctors who are trying to do private practice, the insurance is not making them pay a lot of money. So all the US healthcare is pushing towards big corporations and hospital settings. So small private hospitals are like closing, shutting down, and merging with the healthcare corporation. It's not the ideal thing for professionals working, because you become a doctor or a nurse to just take care of patients and make sure that you're compensated well, and you don't want to run. You really don't trying to think about running a big business and healthcare is very different from working in an IT company. But however, it feels like working in one of that right now. So I think our healthcare system will at some point have a massive drastic change. I don't know when it's going to happen. For me personally, I've worked away for 4.5 years. And after working for that much time, I was told that I need to work more hours or I need to take a pay cut. That's what came up to me. And I'm like one of the highest producing doctors over here for the last 4 years. But that's another thing that just came to me all of a sudden. I did not expect it to happen. It happened in January of 2024. And thanks to my other things that's going on, I was able to cut down my number of hours over there. I'm like, I don't want to work extra. I'll take a pay cut, which nobody wants to do. Nobody in their job setting go try to ask a nurse to take a pay cut after working like so many shifts. I don't think anybody would like to do so. Unfortunately, it's happening to us. I've seen it happening to nurses, in which when it's not that busy in the ER, some of them are told, okay, you can go home, so that but their hours are not paid for. You have to come later on and do those hours later on. Yeah. So I think it's becoming very corporate. I think it's very number driven rather than patient centered. And that's I think it's going to be some kind of changes that's going to happen. I don't know when.
Yeah, I agree with you. My feeling is just based on my gut. Like I feel like something's going to happen at some point. When, who knows? But it feels like it's going down a path that's not going to end well at some point.
Yeah. I would love to know what you guys think, because I think you guys are also being on the nurses side. You guys probably talk to a lot of your friends about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like, I think the thing that concerns me, and I haven't been in the hospital for a couple of years, but it's like just seeing things and hearing things. It's like, I just hear like the work's getting harder, and like there's staffing issues because people are getting burnt out and people are leaving. And I mean, like something that I think Josh was kind of alluding to earlier was like the whole vaccine thing, and like all these nurses that like went from like making these crazy travel contracts to just like some of them were getting cut, some of them were getting fired. And it's like, so there's like all these different dynamics happening at the same time as what you're mentioning with like this kind of turning into more of a business. So I don't know. It doesn't look like it's going to be end well for the hospitals unless they change.
Yeah. And I was sort of alluding to that, and like, it's not like I want to get into that huge debate right now, but it's the fact that like they said, okay, you have to do this or you're fired. And like, it is what it is.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. It was just a fact. Nurses lost their jobs. Like, yeah. And some doctors or whatever, and just people in general. So it's like, that kind of goes back to your point of like having that income and having some sort of backup. Cause you just like, you do kind of feel invincible, especially going through COVID. It was like, I mean, we could like go to our travel company and be like, hey, we want a raise on our next assignment, and just be like, yeah, all right, like cool. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, if you don't do this, you're out. And it's like, oh, whoa, what just happened? We were healthcare heroes like 2 months ago. Like
that flipped very fast, right? The healthcare heroes thing, and people dropping food to your departments and getting all the bonuses and everything. That flipped very fast.
Yeah. So, and that's the way it is. So I don't know. So it'll be interesting.
It was at that point where we're like, okay, let's do something outside of healthcare. That way, if it happens again, we're good. We can leave, and it's not a problem. And
or you just at least have the decision, or like the option, I should say.
The option, yeah. Which that in turn is not going to be good for healthcare either, because we need nurses, we need doctors. But I don't know. It'd be nice if we had a little more control and less of the MBAs and admins have the final say in everything.
And then you have like a lot of younger people getting in. One thing I've noticed in nursing is a lot of nurses are going into NP school very fast. That wasn't before. I don't think you could do that. You had a few years you need to go to nursing for before you get into NP school. So that's changed. So you have a lot of young nurses who come to the ER, train for a year, and they go to NP school. So we have a lot of younger nurses, and nothing bad. Like some of them are great, but the experience is experience. When you work for like 10 years in the ER, you know how to put an IV line, like Colin was mentioning, when a parent is standing in front of your head. So that's very different now in a healthcare setting. So you won't be. So it's very common for a parent to come to the ER and look at a nurse and be like, "You look like you were in high school." She's like, "No, I'm 21." But
yeah. So when I went to CRNA school, I was the youngest person, like by a long shot. But now at the hospital I work at, we get a lot of CRNA students come through, and I'm seeing a pattern. Like you said, there are a lot more younger people coming through, less 5 to 10 years experience people.
And I think a lot of that is also because of not good pay for the nurses. They're thinking they're going to go to CRNA school or NP school because they'll have better pay. And inflation has happened. Everybody's getting more pay, but a lot of medical professionals are still stuck. Hospitals are supposedly making a lot more money, but it's not getting to the nurses or the doctors.
Yeah. Not yet.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
Yeah. I like to make fun of California, but I know their paying the nurses pretty good. So I have nothing good to say about California except for their pay is good.
The pay and the patient ratios are pretty good out here, but like the cost of living is like just chasing that pay so fast that it's like, who knows if you're winning or losing. So
don't nurses get a lunch break or a dinner break in California or something? Like if you go, you have a
I worked at UCLA, and that's something I don't think we've talked about is unions. Like I think I kind of had mixed feelings about unions prior to working for a union hospital. And then it was like, you'd hear the nurses at the union hospital and they're like, oh man, like we we don't like, we're understaffed and this and that. And I'm like, dude, you get like a 15-minute break in the morning for like breakfast, and then you get an hour break later on for lunch, and like nobody's like out of ratio. Like I was like, this is actually kind of great. Like,
Yeah.
because I'd come from a hospital where like I would work like 16-hour shifts and never get a proper break. And it's like,
Yeah.
so I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I guess perspective is one thing, but like, yeah, like it's pretty, there's the conditions out here are pretty solid, I would say, for the most
Yeah,
part.
one of our adult hospitals just got unionized in terms of nurses, the sister hospital for us. And the nurses like it, but I know the hospital administration doesn't like it. It's a little yeah, they lose money when that happens.
Yeah. And it's like they're negotiating your pay, so it's like you're paying your union dues and all that stuff. But I think at the end of the day, and like again, I'm not a big advocate for unions in general, but like just from a personal perspective, I was like, oh, this isn't bad. Like, yeah, I'm paying my union dues, but I'm also getting paid more hourly than I was somewhere else. And like I remember one time I worked at I was doing a travel assignment at Kaiser. And it was kind of busy one night, and the guy's going around. He's got like a notepad. He's like, "How many patients do you have?" I was like I don't know, 3. He's like, oh, "Okay." Like he's going to the. I was like, "What are you doing?" Wow. He's like, "I'm reporting back to the union. Like we need more staffing." And I was like, "We were all like 3 to 1 then." maybe a couple of us were like 4 to 1, but he was just like up in arms. He's like, "No, this will not do." I was like, "Okay."
Wow. Yeah, our nurses carry 4 to 5 patients minimum, I would say. I'll have to double check, but yeah, it's very common in that too pediatric. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's even worse.
You hear like Florida, like where they have like, 11, 12 patients, and like it's like an RN and like 1 LVN. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Come on out.
Yeah, California is great for nursing, travel nursing to work from. That's what I heard too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your real estate a little bit. So you're the MD house hacker. Do you house hack your house? I guess. Yeah. Or where did that name came from?
Yeah, so like I was saying, 2020, I'll go back that I started learning about real estate that time, went through a lot of stuff, and I realized I was about to do what every person who gets out of training, especially a physician, and I think a lot of nurses, they want to go buy a house. They work so hard for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and forcing the single family house, want to have a nice place. I was going through the same kind of scenario when things shut down. I learned about investing. I'm like, where's my biggest expense right now? And that was housing. I was paying $2,300 for my 2-bedroom rental in New Orleans, and which probably is not a lot for LA, probably, but a lot for New Orleans. So I went about buying a 4-unit building that time. So I went out there. I got a 3.5% FHA loan, bought a 4-unit building, lived in one of the units, did a bunch of work on the other units while I was living in it, and then raised the rents, refinanced, got a HELOC, did the whole 9 yard, and started like living for free and getting actually cash flow. And so that was in 2020. Fast forward now, 2024, this place that I'm interviewing from is also a house hack. It's actually a 3-unit building that I moved. It was 2-unit, but we converted it into 3 units now. And I live in one of the units. It's way bigger. It's like 2,500 square foot for my side, and other sides are 1,000 square foot. And we midterm rental one of the units. We do a long-term rental on the other unit, and it's great to. That's how I increase my portfolio. Like like a lot of medical professionals, I was very like risk averse. I didn't want to take a lot of risk. I think you guys have probably seen that working with others. We think that everything bad that's going to happen if we do anything else in medicine, it's going to happen to us. And there's people taking much bigger risk, and we take massive risk with everybody's life in the ER. That's why I think medical professionals make like amazing entrepreneurs, because we take risk every day. We are creative. We great at communication, patient talking to like nurses, doctors. So I was the same way. So I started just buying one house hack and then one other property, one house hack, one other property, one house hack, and that's what I did till now. And at some point, it starts snowballing after a few years, and that's what I feel like it's happening now.
So I've talked to a lot of people that want to buy their first property, and of course, the house hack it comes up every single time, but nobody. So I want to talk about like the mindset, because nobody seems to be okay with like living in a duplex or a 3-unit or something like that. And I try to explain, like, there's nice duplexes that most people would be comfortable in, but how are you, I guess, okay with that? Because especially with your income, I'm sure it's pretty high. How are you, or why would you do that as opposed to just buying somewhere and living in it?
Yeah, I think, The biggest thing for me is not to be attached with my income from my W-2 income, and that can be physician, nursing income, whatever, W-2 income. So I've realized that if my housing is being paid for by other people, I can be, if I have to cut down my shifts, something like this happened to me, like it happened this year, I'm okay with it. In terms of living, you can decide what kind of luxurious property you want to live in. You can live, house hack. When people think about house hack, they think about, I'm going to be sleeping in the bedroom, and there's going to be three other roommates, one in the living room, one in the kitchen, one in the bathroom. I'll be sharing everything. I'll have to fix the toilet every day. I have to fight which container my fridge, which container side my fridge is going to go, and the other ones. So it's not like that. You can decide. You can actually have a nice big property and have like a grandma suite in the back and house hack that. You cut down. It's like basically cutting down your expenses to live to as low as you can, with the goal to live for free and eventually make a lot of money once you move out of it. We
Yeah.
we love our place right now. It doesn't. It's, I would say this is a luxury house hack. We live in the second floor, 2 units on the bottom floor, so we never hear our tenants. Everything is outsourced, so I don't have to ever worry about going and fixing a toilet. I don't even know how to do that. But same thing for the first one. It was four units, and it was a great New Orleans property. I think people just overthink it, and you overthink it for so long that and you just keep paying rent, or you buy a mortgage, you buy a property and you have to pay mortgage for it, and then you're in the same cycle as 95% of the physician and nurses are in.
Yeah. So in addition to what Josh mentioned, like another thing I think that's a hang up for people is they're like, I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to
Oh, yeah.
fix toilets. So you mentioned like you're living there. So one question I have is, do the tenants know you own the place? And then how are you doing that? Are you using a third party property management company?
The tenants do know that I mean, that was a big question that I had. Should I tell them or not? My first property, my second house act, and they all know that I own the place. And actually, I debated for a long time when I was under contract to tell them or not. But I think at the end of the day, they have appreciated it a lot because they know there's a medical professional who owns the place. It's not just another slumlord, which is very common. And when they know that you own the place, you take care of kids or you take care of people in the hospital, they trust you a lot more to take care of the property. So it kind of translates really well to owning. So I think that's like a plus sign. So my tenants never bother me. I mean, they don't have, and then they have a third party online management system in which they can put all the requests in. I use Hemlane, but there's like Rent Ready. There's so many other kind of property management softwares, and they kind of coordinate all the maintenance and repairs. So tenants know that, yeah, I do own the property, but I don't have time to come fix anything. So they still have, it's on the leases. So if something happens, they need to go over there, put it on the request, and somebody's going to come and fix the property. And they like it. One of the good things is they do have my like Google Voice number. So if something like crazy is happening, I can think about something like there was a, I personally, in my first house hack, we left the house, we turned a candle on, and we forgot to turn it off. So the tenants, like there was like fire alarm going off in my unit, and they knew that we lived over there. So they texted us, "Hey, I think there's something going on with fire." So we were right around the corner, so we came and we took care of it.
Oh,
But
wow.
that was something that helped, that they knew that we were good people. We were nice to them. We were being very fair, and if going forward, it depends on how your tenants are. But I have always used the power of being honest, and that always works.
yeah.
Yeah. So are you comfortable going through the numbers of the first one that you bought?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
all right, it was a 4 unit. So yeah, like how much did it cost? How much do you have to put down? Did you use any type of creative strategies or any type of special loan products?
So it was listed for 720. I got it for 690. 3.5% down, FHA loan. I wish I knew creative strategies or other things. I had zero knowledge about real estate when I bought it. Okay, that's what I can
Yeah.
tell you. I just jumped in. I learned a little bit
Yeah.
about it, but I jumped in. So 3.5% down overall, based on the closing costs and everything. I had to bring in approximately $40,000 down. Um,
Okay.
so that was all the money I had in my bank. 6 months of saving. Doctor, I saved a little bit, and that was the money I put down. My major issue was getting a lender because I'm from India originally, so lenders don't like foreign people. They don't like them to get lending because we can. you can run away, and what happens to the loan and stuff. So I understand that, but I had to make 100 calls to get one lender to accept the FHA loan, which is probably the easiest home buying loan to get. So
Wow,
then, yeah, it was very interesting. I was just
that is
being
interesting,
persistent.
especially after finishing medical school and everything, you still had a hard time getting a loan. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, because if you ever like whenever you try to buy a property, you have to check mark whether you are a U.S. citizen or an alien citizen or something like that, and
Mm.
they check on that every time. But there's ways now that I've done. It's been 4 or 5 years since I've been doing real estate investing, so figured it out that it's not a big deal. Um, and then in terms of numbers, so what I had to do was I renovated one unit first where I wanted to live. We renovated, improved it. I moved in over there, and then at one at a time, we were getting the tenants out from one unit and renovating the other unit. One unit renovated. So we overall renovated 3 out of 4 units. The fourth tenant was really good. They're still there right now. My monthly mortgage after everything was after mortgage, insurance, taxes, property management fees was 4,300. Currently, when I used to house hack, I used to make 5,350 on it. So used to get $1,000 to live over there for free. So it was a spread of, if you think I used to pay 2,300 to live there, to live somewhere else. Now I make $1,000 to live somewhere. So it's a spread of $3,000. And now that I moved out, I added another $2,000 to the other unit. So that just cash flows pretty well. Just one house hack after like 2 years, it cash flows around $3,000 a month. Yeah.
Wow. So even with you living there, you were getting $1,000 a month because
Yeah.
of the other 3 units that you were renting.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was also because of the low interest rates at that time. I bought it. The interest was three point something percent.
Mhm.
But it was FHA loan. It was an FHA loan first. Then after all the renovations I did after 6 months to a year, refinanced it to a normal loan. It was still 3%. But the value increased a lot. Like I bought it at 680, but the value became 1 million after like approximately 1 million is 950. So I got all the money that I put in, my renovation cost, everything back from there. And then I basically got that property for free and I live for free. So my return is infinity on that one because it
Yeah.
got for $0 down.
Yeah, and I think like that whole thing about the FHA loan, that's like something that I think is so powerful is that you can use it up to a 4 unit. And so it's like, yeah, you could go buy a single family home, but like if you can use it for a 4 unit, like that, 3.5% down, and you're making $1,000 a month. And it's like, I mean, that's probably more expensive rents in a lot of places, but still, I mean, that's even if you're just breaking even, or even if you're
Yeah.
like just cutting the amount of rent you're paying in half, it's like it's still worth it because then you have the equity piece and you like the appreciation, getting all that money back at the refinance. So have you continued to just house hack? You said you were buying a house hack and another house. What was the other property looking like?
So after the first house hack, the next property I bought was a short-term rental, like an Airbnb property. So one of the things that we can obviously do as high W-2 income is like we pay a lot of taxes. Short-term rentals allow us to write off a lot of taxes based on the tax loophole that you have over there. So that was the second one. Then I bought another investment property, which was another 4-unit building, and then I bought another house hack, and then another building, and then another building. So that's how I just like sprinkle the house hack in between, buying properties in between. Because if you think about the difference I was just telling you, the $3,000 difference on my rental income plus the savings on the rent, that 3,000 in a year becomes 36,000. That 36,000 can be used for down payment for an investment property, and every year and then investment property is going to cash flow some more, so that becomes 50 and then used for the next one. Kind of snowballs a little bit more. And then you move out of the house hack, that 1,000 becomes 3,000, and then it adds up a lot. So I kind of just like initially, when you go through the first stage of house hacking or buying anything, like I think about it as med school. When you go through med school first year, everything is so tough.
Yeah.
You can't do a stitch. You don't know how to do a suture on somebody. And now I can probably do stitches on a kid who's moving with my eyes closed. But it just takes practice, and it you learn. Like you guys are talking about putting an IV line or intubating for Josh. Like he probably can intubate with his eyes closed right now. He doesn't have to worry about what he was doing in CRNA school. So
Yeah.
that's how it felt like. Initially it was tough, but now it gets better and it snowballs.
Yeah. And that's kind of, so we get a lot of CRNA students. I think I said that earlier. And
Yeah.
one thing that I try to tell them is like, when you're first starting, all you have to do is like learn one thing, and you do that until you can do it with, like you said, with your eyes closed. And then you add one more thing, and then you do both of those until you can do them with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
And pretty soon you're doing like everything that you need to possibly do, and it's all second nature to you. It's the same thing with entrepreneurship and investing. You just focus on one thing until you can do it like it's secondhand.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and even like you were saying earlier, you wish you knew some of the creative strategies, but it's like at the same time, like I think you can kind of get hung up on that, and it's like you bought a house for $40,000. It's like, you know, we're talking to nurses here. Like most nurses, maybe in their current circumstance can't, but you could go take like a travel assignment and save that kind of money pretty quickly. And it's like, obviously interest rates have changed now, but at the time it's like most creative deals you're not getting better than 3%. So it's like 3% with 3.5% down. It's like, you don't even have to be creative at that point. It's just about, like Josh said, like doing that first thing and just kind of getting the ball rolling. I think that getting over that hurdle of the first deal is so important. And like with a loan product like that, man, it's like so powerful.
Yeah. And you just have to talk to more lenders. You know, like I had to talk to a bunch of lenders. Now this deal that I am at, I got it for 0% down. You just have to talk to more lenders. And as medical professionals, we have definitely a lot more creative financing by the banks as compared to, you don't have to, I hear a lot about creative financing, and it's there and I love to do it. But there's other conventional ways of financing your property, especially if you're living in it. You don't have to worry about like, I need to send 100 letters or cold call 5,000 people to get my first property under contract. All the properties I've bought, honestly, have been on MLS, and it's been fine. You just have to make the deals numbers work. And I think there's definitely a way to do it.
So how'd you get this most recent one with 0% down?
Physician loan. You know, if you go to banks, they do the same thing for nurses too. They have a portfolio loan, and they will do it for med students. I spoke to the lender. I'm like, can you do it because I teach a lot of nurses and doctors how to house hack. So I was asking them, can you do it for a nurse? They're like, yes, we do it for nurse, CRNAs, NPs, like med students, residents, fellows, and physicians, obviously, RTs, OTs. So there's a special product that a lot of banks carry in a portfolio, and they trust the medical professionals. That's like the good thing that we have going on for us as compared to a lot of other people, because they trust our jobs and a consistent pay. So that's how I got it 0% down.
And so that's a great lesson for myself, because I only spoke to probably 2 different lenders so I just bought a new house about a year ago, and I only spoke to 2 lenders, and they're like, oh yeah, no, we don't have that. You have to be a physician for this. And I was like, well, I'm not a physician, so I guess missed out on that. So that's a good lesson for me. I should have called more than 2 people, because it's obviously out there.
Yeah, I mean, they look at your W-2 and a year or 2 of that, and then their contract with the hospital, and you go from there. Yeah. I'm not sure about travel nurses though, Colin. I don't know. I know you don't know work, but yeah.
Well, I'm actually
call more than 2 people, maybe you'll find one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm sure there's like a special loan product for travel nurses. But yeah, I mean, we're considering going back. My wife and I, she's also a nurse, and we're looking at going back full time. So we'll be a lot more lendable at that point.
Yeah.
But you said earlier how you know, it is a risk, and like, you know, maybe being risk averse. Like I guess like, why would you encourage somebody to take that risk and like to go out and spend that money on that first deal, as opposed to just like, because it's like, okay, like, so $36,000 at the end of the year, that's great. But like, you know, you could pick up a travel assignment and make that much, or like if you're a higher income earner, Josh could make that in a few locums assignments or something like that. So why go out and do it?
Good question. I think at some point you have to figure out why or when you're not trading your time for your money. You know, all the examples that you just gave, as a locum physician or a locum nurse, or even for Josh as a CRNA, he can pick up a shift and make that money, and you know that can save him the $36,000. But he always have to work. He has to put his time for it. And once you start investing into like anything, real estate is just one of the avenues. You know, you guys interview a bunch of different people. So if you do real estate, you do business, you do franchise, you do whatever, at some point, at some place you want to get to a point in which you're not exchanging your time for the money, and you're doing your money for the money. Basically, you are not working and you're getting paid, that mailbox money that people talk about. And That's why I would tell people to do it. I know that was the biggest regret that I had, was not doing it early and not having the awareness of doing it. But that's what I would, that's one of the reasons why I would tell people you can, $36,000 might sound a lot right now, but your time is way valuable than $36,000.
Yeah.
You'll never get that time back. When you're like 30 or 35 or 40, you can do stuff at that age as compared to when you are 60, when most of us think that, okay, we'll work when we're like 65, we're going to do something else. My fiance's mom is a nurse, and she's retiring later this year in April, and she's 65, but she can't do the things that she wished she could do when she was 35. She can't go and climb Mount Everest if she wanted to. Maybe she can, but I don't know. I'm just judging.
Don't doubt her.
So, speaking of Everest, you missed in Vermont. Colin O'Brady spoke over there. Is that his name? Colin O'Brady?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Oh man, he's done some stuff. Makes me feel like I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
So.
How like what's your end goal with all of this? Are you trying to replace your income from your work so that you can fully get out of it, or is this something, being a pediatric physician, that you want to do forever?
So I love being a pediatric emergency medicine physician. I want to do that. I think I want to do that in my own terms. So like you all do, like I can pick up shifts as I want to do. I think I've reached that point in which I can do the things in my own terms. My end goal is more about educating people, like medical professionals, like we're talking about right now with nurses and CRNAs and doctors, because unfortunately we do not learn about finances at all. We have no idea about life outside the hospital or a clinic setting. So goal is to just help as many students who come through me, to just tell them there's other things in life to do apart from just being a doctor or being a nurse. So you have a bigger identity than just being a medical professional.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it kind of just goes back to where you find the most fulfillment. I mean, most of us, I won't say all of us, most of us that work in the hospital find significant fulfillment from doing that. But we'd find even more fulfillment if we did it on our own terms.
Yeah, I think, what is that quote that you find? I mean, I think I'm going to butcher it, but what you train for is your profession, but then after that you find your purpose. So we all what we train for is just one thing, but eventual goal is to find the purpose.
Yeah. So we'll transition here to our final five.
Cool.
Which
final five
is 5 questions. I don't know why I stumbled right there, but 5 questions.
It's very complex.
All right. So first question is that we ask everybody is, what's a top financial resource that you found? Where do you go to educate yourself?
Oh, wow. So I think it's changed over the years. When I started, it was like I started with Peter Kim's course. Then I did semi-retired MD. Then I did Bigger Pockets, a lot of that. So starting out, if somebody was doing real estate, I'd say Bigger Pockets is a great resource. I'm sure we all have heard about it. Now it's changing. I love reading more like mindset books. So like, Alex Ramosi is pretty good. Love his stuff, content. And then Benjamin Hardy, his books are really good. So I love reading those things. So combining some of those skills is good. And then a lot of like abundance calls. I think I learned a lot out of that. Shifted a lot from like learning specifically from like a course to more from people who are ahead of me and trying to find mentors and people who can guide me.
Yeah, that's the reason I joined GoBundance as well, because I mean, in healthcare, there's not a lot of people that are doing what we're doing, and I mean that's why we want to be the resource. But then we need our people that we're learning from also. So that's why I joined.
Yeah, people in the ER think I'm crazy. It's been 5 years. They still think I'm crazy for doing what I'm doing right now. Most people don't do. I think I'll tell you, we have like 30, 40 physicians, and they all follow the same path. They finish the training, they go buy a house, they do the work so they can pay for the mortgage, and they go for the work again. That's the cycle people go through. Nobody tries to go through a path which is not taken commonly. And that's where these groups help. And that's where talking to you, like listening to podcasts, helps a lot, like you guys are doing.
Yeah. At what point are you not going to be so crazy? Because I mean, how many properties do you own at this point? Do they not see what you've been able to do in the last 5 years?
I know. I think they're turning around. So I've had like one doctor who wanted to partner with me, and he's already partnered, and we're trying to buy a second property together now. So
Okay.
I think it's turning around as more and more burnout in healthcare is happening, and also they can see how with a flip of switch, your shifts can be changed or your hours can be changed. And I'm like, okay, sure, you want to change my hours? Either I'll take another job or I'll cut down my hours. I'm not going to work extra. That's not something I want to
Hmm.
do right now, which a lot of people cannot. So I think they are turning around a little bit. And but still, I proposed a very good deal to somebody last week over lunch. We were just having lunch. I'm like, I'm buying this property if you want to. I don't want you to partner with me because I have enough equity and I can buy it. It's a great investment, but I want you to learn about it so you can get financially free. And the biggest thing is that the interest rates are very high right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
those same
tough.
people in 10 years,
Yeah.
the same people are going to be coming to you. Be like, why didn't you make me buy this with you?
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So number 2 is, what advice would you give yourself as a new doctor?
As a new doctor,
Well, a younger Dr. Gupta.
oh, so I would say, okay, this is from like 2 days ago. I would say do hard things on purpose. That's what I shied away from a lot of times. And I say this from 2 days ago because I didn't know how to ski before Tahoe a year ago when I met Josh for the first time. And I saw all these guys waking up at 6 a.m., lining outside the ski school or to get the ski rentals and stuff like that, ready to go. And I had never even put my foot inside a ski boots or forget about skis. So that kind of encouraged me to go more skiing. So this was the third or the fourth time I went skiing. And I've learned like doing hard things on purpose, like gets you prepared for a lot of things, I think I read this great Twitter feed by like Andrew Huberman. I think, he talks about a lot of like, he's a PhD in health and stuff. I think I'm going to butcher it, but he said that I don't know how hard it's going to be, but because I've done hard things, I'll figure it out. So when you do hard things on purpose, I wish I did that more, because when something crazy happens, which always happens in our life, we've done so many hard things that it's okay. We'll figure it out. So that's what I would tell my younger self: do more hard things on purpose.
Yeah.
So I think you're just being humble because obviously medical school is not easy, but you want to do more hard things is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, again,
Yeah.
that goes back to just one identity of being a medical professional. You get so like, honestly, at this stage of my career, most of the emergency stuff I can do it very easily. It's not like hard. So you can lay back and you'll be like, that's so easy to do.
Yeah.
But now doing all the other hard things kind of gets you ready for other things in life. Like that's how you become an entrepreneur, good entrepreneur, I think.
Yeah. We can link you up with this guy Alex we interviewed on one of the earlier episodes, and he's doing ultra marathons if you want to do something hard.
Yeah, he runs like 150 miles.
Yeah.
Wait, is that 50 or 150? It's way too much.
I think it was like just over 100 through like 3 countries in Europe or something. I'm like,
we all should go for it together. I'll sign up if you
I'll do
guys sign
something
up.
else.
I don't think I could qualify.
All right. Number 3 is what's your big goal for the next 12 months? What does 2024 look like for you? Are you still buying stuff with these high interest rates?
Yeah, business wise, yes, still buying. I think is basically this year the goals become more aggressive. Honestly, I kind of slowed down a little bit last year in 2023, and I bought 2 properties but didn't buy a lot. This year, planning to buy 4 and have 1 under contract right now, which we are doing due diligence. So that's like the big business, real estate, personally goal. I want to get my house hacking thing across a lot, like to teach more and more people. So that's another thing, because I really, really believe in it. It's changed my life. I think it can do to a lot of people, especially medical professionals. So that's another one in which I'm trying. I coached like 55 people last year. I'm trying to go to 100 this year for house hacking.
Nice.
And then bunch of personal, like getting married this year. That's a big personal goal for 2024. Bunch of travel, and I'm doing this fitness thing with one of the coaches in Gobandance, and we'll see how it turns out when we show up in Scottsdale later this year.
Nice. There's your hard things. Marriage is really hard, so that's your new hard thing. I'm going on 11, or I'm going on 12 years actually. Wait, I just hit 11 years, and
wow,
that's hard.
That's amazing, man. Congrats.
Yeah. Thank you.
So number 4 is, if you were to tell people to do one thing right now, what would you tell them to do?
One thing right now, I would say the biggest thing that's helped me right now was finding my why. Like I have it written on my board all the time. So a lot of people will go out and start to review house hack or start to do numbers and stuff like that. But um, anything you do in life will have challenges. Like I had so many challenges when I first bought my properties. I thought it's going to be easy, but I think knowing your why is very important. So if you have time, one thing I tell people to do is like sit down with a pen and paper, write your why, imagine your ideal life beyond just medicine, and try to work on that.
Right.
Makes the hard things easier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Number 5 is, what is your biggest financial mistake, and what did you learn from it?
Biggest financial mistake, I would say more of an awareness than a mistake. So residency is 3, fellowship is 3 years for me, and I wish I knew about house hacking during that time, because I think that if I house hacked one property during residency and one property during fellowship, that's like 12 and 10 years from now, I would be so farther ahead in terms of like my financial situation right now, as I would have been, as I am without them. So I think that would be one of the awareness I wished I had. Somebody came to me and told me, "Hey, I know you're doing your training, but you can do this, and you don't have to really. You can get 0% down, 3.5% down, save some money, but once you start saving money on rent, and it snowballs, as I was telling before. So I think that'd be the biggest thing I would say that I wish I did."
So that's a great one. That resonates with me because I have some people that I don't want to call them mentoring, but they'll like reach out to me asking for tips. Like, oh, I want to get into real estate investing, but I just started school. And like, I guess I don't know how to pitch it to them because I know it's a good idea, but I don't know how to like explain it to them. I guess so. Because you did residency in New York, then Michigan, and now you're in
New Orleans.
LA.
Yeah.
New Orleans. So what do you tell somebody who's like just starting residency? They're going to have to move for fellowship or wherever they get their first job. So how do you tell them to kind of combat that, like hesitation?
Yeah.
There we go.
The minimum years for residency is 3 years. Some surgical residencies are 5 years. So it's between 3 to 5 years. So I kind of tell them that, you're going to be paying rent anyways. And most of the people are going to either in an expensive area, like in New York where I lived, I used to pay $1,500 for 1 bedroom in a 3-bedroom house. So you're going to pay for a rent anyway. So why don't you like try to figure out a place that you can buy? And it sounds like absurdly impossible to buy those places because it's so expensive, but you can go to a physician like loan company, which will give you a physician loan despite being resident, get a 0 to 5% down. You probably don't have to put a lot of money, like maybe $5,000-$10,000. Get it from your friends, get it from your family, get it from somebody, put it down, get into that place, live in a room, rent out other rooms if you can. If you're married or you have kids, you can live in a unit, rent out the other units, like the first one I did. And eventually, you think that $5,000, $10,000 is a lot right now, but once you save that $1,500 a month on rent that you're going to pay over there, it can just cancel it out in the first year. So I think people are it's just lack of awareness, I think, and just being very scared. And once you start doing the numbers, once you put up enough reps, like you're not going to go squat 600 pounds on the first day. You just have to put the reps in. So once you start doing the reps, I think you get in. And so that's my, when you ask 2024 goals, that's like big goal, just spreading awareness among medical community that, you can start early, because I missed out on that. And I think if you start early, you can be way ahead than a lot of us are right now.
100%.
That's a common answer too, is like, I just like wish I had started sooner. And like everybody says it, like we say it, like everyone says it. And like that doctor that you offered the deal to, like Josh said, in a few years, it's going to be like interest rates will be like 12% or something. He's going to be like, oh, I should have done it when I was 7.
Yeah, I know, right?
So,
we never know what's going to be. We never predicted what's 2023 is going to be. Like, it was pretty sad year for a lot of people. We never knew that. I think you just learn on the go. Like, you learn so many things. I cannot imagine what I knew in 2020 and I invested with the amount of knowledge that I have right now. It's so different. But you learn and you just become better.
Well, and you just do the numbers. Like the numbers, like if the interest rates are high, then you pay what the numbers tell you that you can pay. It's not like a huge mathematical equation aside from just pay less if the interest rates are higher.
And then you figure out why there are other people who are buying. It's not that real estate transactions are zero right now, right? There's transactions happening every city, in every town, every county in the country. There are people buying. There must be a reason why they're buying. So, you can be left behind, or you can be in that rat race like a lot of medical professions are caught into.
Yeah. So where can people find
Went
you?
heavy. Yeah. We went a little heavy today. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I know you guys like it sarcastic and fun. I think we went a little heavy. They can find me on my like my Instagram is MD House Hacking. My website is mdhousehacking.com. That's the best way to find me. You can like email me from there or go and message me on Instagram.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Yeah. All right. Everybody reach out to him. He's going to mentor 100 people, so get in on that list.
Yeah. We'll have to have you back on and joke around a little more.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.